Well, we have to start by talking about someone I haven't thought of in years, and that is the actress Eva Longoria. You might know her from the show Desperate Housewives. It was on from about 2004 to 2012. The show was great, okay? Desperate Housewives was incredible. It was on ABC. It was written and directed and created by Mark Cherry. You had Felicity Huffman. You had all of these big stars, Marcia Cross, the redhead. Desperate Housewives was great. But someone who's not so great right now is Eva Longoria because she decided to post a cringe, bizarre, out of touch video from her mansion in Spain decreeing the protest in Los Angeles and the ICE raids. Let's take a look.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to get on here and finally compose myself to do a message because of everything that's happening with the mass deportations. Every time I try to record a message, I just start crying, and then I don't want it to be about me and my emotions about it, but it's just so inhumane, hard to watch. It's hard to witness from afar. I can't imagine what it's like to be in Los Angeles right now. I can't believe it's happening in Austin, Texas. I can't believe it's happening all over the country. And the comments and people's reactions to it is really so surprising to me because it is un-American. We all can agree nobody wants criminals in our country. Nobody wants rapists. Nobody wants drug dealers. Nobody wants bad actors in our country. That's not what's happening.
Eva Longoria posted that video from her mansion in Spain. She is so overcome because of the ICE raids in Los Angeles. Mind you, she fled the country because she's worth about $80 million and she's living in a mansion in Spain. And she has the audacity to tell us it is un-American to deport criminals. I'm sorry. It is not un-American, and she acts like they're going and sweeping and picking up 2-year-olds. No, we are deporting violent criminals like Kilmar Abrego Garcia and others. That is what we are doing. So she is over at her mansion in Spain. Eva Longoria wants to tell us how to live our lives. She's also acting like she's the savior of the Mexican immigrants. She reminds me a lot of Selena Gomez in her video from a few months ago where she was crying and saying, "These are my people. All of my people are getting attacked." We all remember the video of Selena Gomez. We will spare you. We won't play it for you again. We won't make you go through that. But Eva Longoria, she is in her mansion in Spain. She's worth $80 million, and she is telling people in Los Angeles, it's fine. Let the illegal migrants just live and run amok. Let them do what they want to do. Why aren't you calling out Gavin Newsom for failing to protect California, to protect Los Angeles? Why aren't you calling out Karen Bass? And Eva Longoria, much like Selena Gomez, she did not even learn Spanish until 2009. Okay, so Eva Longoria is acting like she is the queen of the Mexican Americans. She did not even learn Spanish till 2009 when she was a very famous television star. That's who Eva Longoria is. She's also from Corpus Christi, Texas. She wants us to think she just came across the border and immigrated to the United States and she knows how to do it all. No. No, 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 no. Much like Selena, who I believe is from Garland or Grand Prairie, Texas, close to my hometown of Dallas, they are full of crap. So Eva Longoria, you look ridiculous, you look out of touch, but this seems to be a common theme in the Eva Longoria group text because someone else who is best friends with Eva Longoria is none other than Lauren Sanchez, Jeff Bezos' fiance, his soon-to-be wife here in a few weeks. So Eva Longoria is best friends with Lauren Sanchez. She rolls with a rich crew. She rolls with such a rich crew, but then she wants to tell us how to live our lives. That's who Eva Longoria is. She's over in her mansion in Spain, counting $80 million worth of cash, telling us we should be fine with illegal migrants running amok on our streets. But Eva Longoria, she's best friends with Lauren Sanchez, Kim Kardashian, Katy Perry. If you recall, they were all at that over-the-top bachelorette party in Paris. Now, to be friends with these people, as I mentioned before a few episodes ago, you also have to be rich because to go to a bachelorette party in Paris and then fly home and then fly back to Venice for the wedding, you have to be rich, okay? But Kim Kardashian, she also put out a statement this morning calling out the ICE raids, basically saying it's un-American, the same talking points as Eva Longoria. You have Lauren Sanchez, she's doing the same thing, Katy Perry. All of these women now who are rich, who are either rich on their own because of their own success, and we'll give it to them. Kim Kardashian is worth billions and billions of dollars. So for all the people out there, you too could film a sex tape and build an empire if you have a momager like Kris Jenner, because the devil works hard, but Kris Jenner works harder. But Lauren Sanchez, Kim Kardashian, Katy Perry, Eva Longoria, these are the last people I want to hear from when it comes to the immigration crisis here in the United States. And when we look at the polling overwhelmingly shows President Trump is on the right side of history. There are people who don't even love President Trump, did not vote for the man, but they are happy that we are getting illegal migrants out of this country. And we actually have some polling. We have some polling on the migrant crisis and where President Trump stands, where the Republican Party stands. This is actually from CNN. We have a clip. Let's take a look.
Immigrant citizens, immigrant voters, foreign-born voters have gone tremendously to the right on this issue in 2024 and 2025 versus where they were in 2020. Closest to or trust more in immigration. You go back to 2020. Democrats, get this, held a 32-point lead on this issue. Immigrant voters were in the Democratic camp. Jump forward to 2024, 2025. Look at that shift, a 40-point shift to the right among immigrant voters. Republicans now lead on this issue by 8 points over Democrats, more so than any other group that I could find. The group of voters who became more hawkish on immigration were in fact immigrants themselves, immigrants who are registered to vote in this country.
I have talked about this for years, and I'm happy we have the data. We have Harry Inton on CNN showing us, so maybe the CNN viewers will believe this. Maybe the liberals who watch MSNBC will start to believe us. Immigrants who came to the United States, who went through the process the right way. Because guess what? We are a country of immigrants, but we're also a country of law. So if you want to come here, you have to go through the process. And those folks, they're the ones who are most upset that there are people the last 4 years who ran across the border. They are using resources in states like California that homeless people would like, Americans who actually pay their taxes would love to have those resources. There are folks across the country, they expect us to pay for their transgender surgery operations. Why should we be paying for illegal migrants to get transgender operations and procedures in the United States of America when we have veterans sleeping on the street? Okay, can we take care of our own people for once, right? It doesn't make us xenophobic. It doesn't make us racist. It doesn't make us closed-minded. All we want is a few years to get back on track and to take care of the American people who have been sidelined and left behind, the forgotten men and women of this country that Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and the Democratic elites did not want to speak to the last 4 years. When they opened the border, they deliberately opened the border and let millions of illegal migrants into the country. Kamala Harris, she was put in charge of the border. In January of 2021, Kamala was made the border czar. I don't know if Biden was aware of that because we know his brains are mashed potatoes, but he put Kamala Harris in charge of the border. She went down to the border for about 12 minutes during her 107-day campaign. That's who Kamala Harris is. And I believe she had a $65,000 necklace on. So she put on her best fancy outfit. She went down to the border. She tried to look rough and tumble for about 12 minutes. That's who Kamala Harris is. That's who the Democrat Party is. And we want to take care of our own people. So for Eva Longoria and all of these rich celebrities, you say, oh, this isn't fair to the migrants, to the immigrants. Well, guess what? The Mexican Americans who are here in the country right now are the ones who want secure immigration. They want an immigration system that works. The people who came to this country, went through the process, did it the right way. They are the ones who are most upset. And you look at cities like New York City, Eric Adams, right? The last few years, he was putting illegal migrants up in hotels with cash cards, food, prepaid cell phones. They were getting shuttled to doctor's appointments. And like I said, Americans were out on the street. They had lost their jobs during COVID because of all the businesses that were shut down, the small businesses in New York City. But migrants who came in under Biden, they could just get bused to New York, put up in a hotel and taken care of. And that is why there's such a backlash and people are upset. And that's why when we see this polling, President Trump overwhelmingly is on the right side of history on this one. Back in January, I believe 60% of Americans in a New York Times poll, they wanted to deport criminals as well. They want mass deportations. 60% of Americans support mass deportations. It's hard to get 60% of Americans to agree on almost anything. Now, we have to talk about none other than Gavin Newsom. Because speaking of spiraling, Eva Longoria is spiraling, Gavin Newsom, in the last 24 hours, Gavin Newsom has basically imploded his entire career, all of his presidential political aspirations. What we are watching with Gavin Newsom, and I don't say this lighthearted, I don't say this as a joke, we're watching a man unravel. We are watching a man crack and come apart and come unglued and become unhinged. That is what is happening with Gavin Newsom. We've seen it with our own two eyes, our own two ears. Gavin Newsom is incapable of making executive decisions. He's incapable of it. This to me is an executive functioning psychological issue. When you have someone in a position of power who can't get their story straight, who can't make decisions in a crisis, that's a big issue. That's very concerning for me. And Gavin Newsom, of course, has aspirations of being president of all 50 states. He can't take care of his own state. He's running a deficit that's tens of billions of dollars. Look at the homeless crisis. Look at the fires. Look at the fire hydrants that did not have water in them. And they knew they were going to have wildfires. That's who Gavin Newsom is. And so we're watching a man who, he's not sleeping either. He's sweating bullets. He can't decide if it's President Trump's fault or if it's his fault or if he wants President Trump's help or if he's going to sue President Trump. Gavin Newsom doesn't know his ass from his elbow right now. That is who Gavin Newsom is. And so let's read you what has happened with Gavin Newsom the last 12 hours. Okay. So last night, Gavin Newsom, this was Tuesday night, he was going to do an address to the nation. He wanted to do a presidential address to the nation because I'm Gavin Newsom and I'm gearing up to run in about 2027, okay? He wants to run for president. We see it coming in just a few years. He does this address to the nation. Much like California and his policies, the address to the nation was an utter calamity, okay? Gavin Newsom, you are an utter calamity. You might just be utter calamity of the week, Gavin Newsom. You might be utter calamity of the year, of our lives. So we actually have a clip from his address to the nation. Let's take a look.
Okay, we are working on the audio. Not sure if that's on the governor's end, but we're working to get that production up and running for you so you can listen in. We certainly will have excerpts of what the governor has said, but we're efforting to get the audio working so we can hear Governor Newsom's speech.
Gavin Newsom, you need to stop getting on camera. You need to stop tweeting. You need to start doing all of this social media posting you're doing and go actually take care of your people. President Trump doesn't want to come in and deploy the National Guard. He has bigger fish to fry. You should be able to take care of your own state. But Gavin Newsom, every accusation is an admission, right, from the left. That is who Gavin Newsom is. He's saying Donald Trump wants to do this for political points. President Trump is doing this because he wants to create chaos in the streets. I think Gavin Newsom and the left, they're the ones who want to create chaos in the streets. And then Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, after days and days and days of saying these are peaceful protests, she finally calls a curfew for downtown Los Angeles. She called a curfew from about 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. So if these were overwhelmingly peaceful protests, how come you need a curfew? Clearly, you guys are in over your heads. And Gavin Newsom, one thing you have to remember, this guy is a snake oil salesman. He is a liar. He is a grifter. He is part of the political Democratic elite class. That is who he is. That is who Gavin Newsom is. He went out there and said, Donald Trump never called me. Trump never called me. There was no voicemail. But guess what President Trump did? He dropped the receipt. So he called John Roberts over at Fox News, and here's what he had to say. The first call was not picked up. Second call, Gavin picked up. We spoke for 16 minutes. I told him to essentially get his ass in gear and stop the riots, which were out of control. More than anything else, this shows what a liar he is. He said, I never called. Well, here is the evidence. So then he dropped the screenshots of the call with Gavin Newsom. So I don't know why Gavin Newsom is lying. I think maybe Gavin Newsom is drinking. He can't get his story straight. Clearly, there's something wrong with Gavin Newsom, and we're watching this man crack and unravel and come apart in real time. And it's actually really concerning. It's really concerning to see someone who is governor of a massive state like California with a massive economy and massive issues not able to get it done. You have to be able to get it done. But the left, watching them try to get anything done, any basic task, it's like watching a dog try to walk on its hind legs. That is who Gavin Newsom is. Gavin Newsom is that dog trying to walk on its hind legs, and he can't even walk in a straight line. That is who Gavin Newsom is. And we have to talk about Gavin Newsom's wife. So Gavin Newsom's wife, Jennifer Sybil Newsom. I did a video on this. It ended up going viral. I didn't expect it to hit in the way it did. If you haven't seen it, it's on my social media. But Gavin Newsom's wife, in the midst of the riots and the chaos, she decides she's going to go out to a luxury shopping center in Beverly Hills. And according to the Daily Mail, she was there picking up some products. She had a handbag that cost thousands and thousands of dollars. She had a full team of security. You know who would love security? The people whose cars are being lit on fire. The people who have illegal migrant criminals moving into their neighborhoods. That is who would like security. But Gavin Newsom's wife, she's out shopping. And I'm going to read you a little bit of the article right now, okay? So according to the Daily Mail, this is all according to their reporting, Jennifer, who's 50 years old, she was spotted at One Beverly Hills, a luxurious complex of wellness centers and spas in the city's most exclusive zip code. She was dressed the part in a pair of $500 Common Project sneakers and a $2,500 Goyard tote bag, her bodyguard trailing behind her as she offered a coy smile. She seemed upbeat and calm. You know who isn't upbeat and calm? The people whose cars are being blown up. Okay, you know who's not calm? The people trying to get to work and the freeways being overtaken by these migrants who want to wave Mexican flags, but apparently they don't like Mexico enough to go home. So they love Mexico enough to wave the flag. They can't get their story straight either. So I'm glad Gavin Newsom's wife is out shopping. The optics of this are terrible, but it's the rules for thee, not for me. And I also have to point something out about Gavin Newsom. When you reach that level in Democratic politics, you are answering to somebody else, right? There are folks pulling your puppet strings. There are donors who are telling you what to do and how to do it. So Gavin Newsom, he wants this chaos to continue. There are guys and shadowy figures behind the scenes, mark my words, who want this chaos and disruption across the country this summer. They want there to be this chaos so all of us, I guess our summers are interrupted to try and make President Trump look bad. They want to create almost the Civil War type of mentality this summer in Atlanta and Dallas and New York and Los Angeles, and just to have it overtake the news. That's clearly what the plan is here. And I had someone send me a screenshot earlier today of Gavin Newsom and all the money he's received from the Soros Management Fund, right? And we have tons of pictures of Gavin Newsom hanging out with Alex Soros, George Soros' son. And if you remember, Joe Biden gave George Soros, I believe, a Medal of Freedom. He gave him a Medal of Freedom. And then George Soros didn't even show up to pick up the award. His son, Alex, went. So Alex Soros is very close to Gavin Newsom. There are folks Gavin Newsom is working for, and it's not his constituents in California, in my opinion, because anybody worth their salt with some gumption would have shut this down. You wouldn't have needed President Trump to come in with the National Guard. You would have been able to shut this down and to take care of it yourself. But Gavin Newsom, they want this chaos. They want all of this to unfold. He wants to see cars burning in the streets so he can turn around and say, that is President Trump. I'm going to be the leader of the opposition. And I think that's what we're seeing. With Gavin Newsom's horrific, calamitous address to the nation, he wants to be the anti-Trump resistance. And I think he's going to set himself up that way in 2028. But he should go and look at the polling, because the polling shows an overwhelming majority of Americans support President Trump on the top line issues, right? They support President Trump on mass deportations, getting criminals out of the country. Gavin Newsom, just this morning, he is still trying to keep men and women's sports. Gavin Newsom wants men and women's sports. Clearly, he hates women. That's an 80-20 issue, right? 80-20 issue. So Gavin Newsom, if he's going to be the leader of the resistance, good luck, because your policies are so unpopular. If I were you, Gavin Newsom, I'd go back to the drawing board. I'd put water in my fire hydrants. I would make sure all of these criminals are off the streets. I would work with President Trump on the deportations, because Obama was the deporter in chief. You try and make it seem like Republicans invented deportations. I would go take care of that. I would go take care of that, Gavin Newsom, because if you ever think you want to come near the Oval Office in the White House, good freaking luck to you.